Welcome to the Soul Forge, a place of silent mystery, quiet contemplation, and outright mayhem. Join your host, Sean Vanderloo, as he guides you through the adventures of living. Together, we'll talk about life and love, sex and dating, joy and heartache, memories and loss, and so much more. Don't worry, it's not nearly as pretentious as it sounds. Get ready for life, the universe, and everything on the Soul Forge.
Well, hello there, everybody. Welcome to episode 18 of the Soul Forge podcast. Hope everybody had a great Canadian Thanksgiving this past weekend. And for those not in Canada, well, I hope you had a great weekend anyway. So what are we going to talk about this time? Well, 18. Isn't there a song that goes something like 18 in life? I believe there is. I'm not too well versed in music and that kind of thing, but I know a certain amount of stuff, and I thought life would be an interesting topic to go into today. What about life? Well, since I started doing this podcast, have I grown? Have I matured? Have I learned anything? Am I helping others? Am I helping myself? That's what we're here to find out. I've been thinking about doing this podcast probably a good year and a half. And I was trying to figure out exactly what I was going to do it on, how I was going to approach the topic, what kind of things were going to be mentioned, tackled, just that kind of stuff. What was going to be the heart of the issue here on these podcast episodes. And at first I thought I would just call it my dating life, do 5-minute updates on dates that I had gone on or something interesting that might have happened in my life, not specifically about dating, just different things. And maybe a couple years ago, back in 2015, that would have been a great idea. It would have been a lot of fun. 5-minute updates, because there was a lot of crazy stuff going on. So what am I going to talk about today? I'm going to talk about where my life has gone and how far I've come in the last few months. Hopefully, I have come far in the last few months. But that's what we're going to talk about. Let's see. Let's get right into it. If you've listened to my dating episode, which I believe was episode 3, you'll have noticed that my dating life, my love life, has had a lot of ups and downs, and it's gone all over the place. And there's been no specific pattern to it, really, other than the fact that, all right, whatever. So, for the last year, where has my life been? Well, in June of 2016, Terry and I started dating, and the original plan was for her to move here. We were going to do the long-distance thing for about a year, and then she was going to move to town. She was in the Sioux, and I'm here in Timmins, and that's about a 5.5-hour drive. So we met in, was it February or March? I think it was the end of March of 2016, and we chatted randomly here and there. And then in June, she came for a visit, and we decided to do the dating thing, and we would do the long distance. July of 2017, she would move here after a year of long distance. And we figured we would see each other on the long weekends and random weekends here and there. 5 hours is a long enough drive, so maybe we'd see each other every 4 to 6 weeks. But life happens, and she decided, hey, what if I find a job there now and come this summer? So I thought that was a great idea, and she came up and got herself an apartment. She moved here in end of July, so I think August was the first month that she was here in her apartment, and I stayed over there quite a bit, and we did the whole dating thing. And anyway, this is not about Terry, but it didn't work out, and in May of 2017, we split up, and she moved back home that June. So the whole thing was over in a year. So where did that leave me? Well, it left me with trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. What did I want? What was I willing to sacrifice for or settle for or hold out for or that kind of thing? And so I figured, you know what? I've been through a lot of crap. Why don't I talk to somebody about it? a bunch of people suggested I talk to the EAP, the Employee Assistance Program counselors and whatnot, or talk to any kind of psychologist or whatnot. And I was like, you know what? I don't really want to do that. What I'll do is I'll start a podcast and talk about life and where I am and the things I've learned and all that kind of fun stuff.
This is Kitty from Jump City Comics, and you're listening to the Soul Forge podcast. Forge your soul.
More like self-talk therapy. Only time will tell if this was the right choice. Should I have talked to a counselor? Should I have gotten myself psychologically deprogrammed? I don't know. I'm not really sure. But here I am doing a podcast, talking about stuff, and today's topic is the state of the union of my life. Sounds very dramatic. It's not really. So Terry left in June, and over the next month or so, I really sat down and tried to figure out what I was going to do for this podcast. In the episode where I talked about all the different names, if you've listened to that, you know I thought about it quite a bit, and the hardest part actually was getting the websites working, and that was a whole disaster area for about 3 weeks until I got it all figured out. Dealing with helplines and chatbots on website helpers are not very good, so it took 3 weeks to get the domain attached to the podcast hosting site that I wanted to use. So while I was waiting for that, I recorded a few episodes and I researched some other topics and different ideas, created the email and the Twitter and all that good stuff, Facebook page. Got a buddy to do the logo for me. Then I started recording and uploading the episodes. About once a week. I might try to do a few in a week randomly throughout the time, from time to time, but it's not always easy, especially with working and that kind of thing. So how am I dealing with the breakup of Terry? It was touch and go. She liked to post quite a bit of stuff negatively about me on Instagram and Facebook, because she likes to live her life on social media, and that was one of the points of contention. So that was a bit rough. And so I had decided that maybe I would try to stay single for 6 months to a year. But of course, as life goes, that has not actually occurred. Over the last few months, I've been talking to an old friend, somebody I'd known since probably maybe 2004, 2005. We worked together back at the call center back in the day, and we've always kept in touch and chatted here and there. And we talked quite a bit after the breakup of my marriage with Bridget. She listened to me and helped me through that a bit. And so the last few months, we've decided to see if there was a spark between us, and lo and behold, there is. And so we're seeing how that's going, and so far it's actually going really well. Probably the best part about her, and her name is Cheryl, the best part about her is that she doesn't put up with my crap. She calls me on it, and that's probably the best thing for me. She keeps me on track and makes sure that I follow through on the ideas that I have, because that's a big problem with me. I'm the idea man. It's always been up to other people to follow through on the ideas and get these things incorporated, because I can come up with a million things, but I'm not always great at actually getting them going. So Cheryl's great for that. In fact, this past weekend, I'd been saying for, I don't know, maybe a year that I wanted to clean up my basement, because as many of you may know, I am a collector, and I've been collecting pretty much all my life. And actually this episode 18 was going to be about collecting, but then I decided, you know what, 18 in life, let's do a life topic episode. So for the last year or so, all my totes have been in the basement, not in any logical order, and some totes were overflowing, some totes were half full. And so we took a day and we threw out 2 garbage bags of just random things that were garbage. We condensed about 10 cardboard boxes and put everything into the totes properly, swept out the basement, and it's fantastic. You can actually move down there. I know where all the stuff is. I put some stuff up for sale, and some things were actually bought. What else did we do? Back in 2011, I was 34. In the summer of 2011, I was 34. I was about to turn 35 in September. I'd been saying for 5 or 6 years that by the time I was 40, I was going to have a classic automobile, because I've always liked old cars. So in August 2011, about an hour out of town, a Beetle went up for sale, a 1974 Beetle. drove up to the area where it was, looked at it, and it seemed pretty good. And I drove it back and I paid for it, and it was all good. And then I was going to fix it, but I never got around to it. I never had the money. Life things just kept happening. I couldn't afford it because I had to pay for brakes on the car that I have, or I needed a new suspension, or there was always something coming up that I had to pay for that I could never really have the money to fix this Beetle. So finally, this past week, I said, you know what, I'm just going to sell the thing, let it go to somebody who will actually work on it. Because I've had it for 6 years, and I've never really done anything to it. I bought a few extra pieces and parts as time went on, but it needed a brake job, it needed new wiring, it really needs a good paint job, and the engine needs some overhauling, and the headpiece, you know, the fabricy stuff in over your head, whatever that's called. I think it's called something about not a head frame. I don't even know. It doesn't matter. But that was all ripped to pieces and needed a new one of those. And none of that stuff's expensive, but there's so much that it needs, it really adds up. So I said, you know what, Cheryl, I just want to sell it. So she put it up on Facebook for sale, and within 24 hours, there it was. It was gone. I'd had the idea of selling it before, about a year ago, and I put it online, but nothing ever came of it. I don't know. Cheryl's got the magic touch because the Beetle's gone, the garage is cleaned out, the basement is cleaned out. Things are coming along really nicely. Her and I are doing really well. Yeah, it's just really nice. I have no complaints. Things are good. People have even noticed, and they said, "Hey, what's going on? You seem so much happier and relaxed lately." And it's true. I've got more energy than I've had in years. I don't know what it is about Cheryl, but she's certainly doing something wonderful to my life, and I'm not going to screw it up, I guess. So, yeah. So that's good. What else is going on? Well, work is work. I deliver the mail, if I haven't mentioned that before, and it's coming into the winter season, but it's still nice out. It's not cold. It hasn't snowed yet. It hasn't been raining too much. So work is going okay. The new relationship is going well. Actually, when I sold the Beetle, I was almost able to pay off a whole credit card. So that had gotten higher than I liked because I had to put new brakes and some kind of something into my car. I drive a 2012 Mazda 3, and so I had to get all new brakes and a wheel bearing, maybe? There was something that I had to get that was pretty expensive. So that went on the credit card, and I don't like using my credit card, but I didn't have the money, so guess what? The credit card went up, and I sold the Beetle and almost paid off the credit card. So that's great. What else is happening? There's a new Star Trek series out, Star Trek Discovery, and I'd waited 12 years for that to come back on the air, and I'm loving it. It's great. What else is happening? The Orville is on TV. That's a space show for people who don't like space shows with Seth MacFarlane, and that's actually really good. I'm liking that. All the new DC superhero seasons is starting up soon too. What else? I don't know. I'm not miserable, so that's a good thing. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. About 3 or 4 years ago, I bought an antique TV from a coworker, and the antique TV didn't work. But I was going to use it for like a display or something. But I never did get around to it because I never figured out what I wanted to do with it. So that was in the basement too. We put it up for sale on Facebook, and within 3 days it was gone as well. I only paid $20 for it, and I got $20 for it. So that was all right. We just had Thanksgiving this past weekend, and we drove all over Northern Ontario. We went to New Liskeard to visit Cheryl's friend and bring her some stuff for her new baby. And then we drove up to Cochrane for Thanksgiving dinner with Cheryl's parents. I later found out that Cheryl's mom thinks I'm very personable. I'm a very nice man. And her grandma, who I met 2 weeks ago, who didn't know that Cheryl had this new boyfriend, and grandma's like 93 or something, said, "He's very good looking." So when Cheryl told me that was nice to hear. Granny thinks I'm hot. Mom thinks I'm personable. I don't know what her dad thinks about me. He doesn't say too much, but seems okay, so that's all right. Other than not having a ton of money, I don't really have any complaints. My car's running fine right now. My health is okay. The weather's fine. I can't think of anything to complain about. There's new Star Trek on TV, which I just love. What else? I bought the new Kesha CD on the weekend. That's my guilty pleasure. I love me some Kesha. Oh, my Neil Young record came in the mail today, so that was all right. What else? I don't know. I don't know what else to tell you guys. This is a podcast about life and living and sex and dating and all that kind of stuff. Life and living is good right now. Oh, that's what I'm doing. I'm starting to slowly sell off my collectibles. Like I said, I was going to do episode 18 about collectibles. Maybe I'll do episode 19 about collectibles to give you a good background about what that's all about. To make a long story short, I used to define my life through my collection, and I don't need to do that anymore because I don't need that. And I'll talk about that more in a future episode, probably episode 19. But I'm slowly starting to get rid of things. Yeah, and it feels good because all this extra stuff has just been weighing me down, and I've been carrying it around for like 30 years in totes. And it's not on display because I've never had enough room to display the stuff that I have. So why hold on to it? So just get rid of it. And if I can make some money off of it, I will. I'm not going to just give it away because I've spent a lot of cash on it. And I don't like to obsess over money or be concerned with it too much. But there's never enough. So if I can sell my stuff and get some money out of it, I'm going to do that. And what I'd really like to do is go on a nice trip because I've never really been anywhere. Like this past summer, I went with the brothers to Cedar Point, but that's I think as far as I've ever been. So not very far. So one of these days, I'd like to take a trip over to Europe, and that's what I'm saving up for. So we'll see how that goes. Other than that, I guess that's all I've got to say. Everything's good. So how does this relate to the Soul Forge? What are we putting on the fires of the Forge? Well, it's not really that kind of episode. It's more of a, hey, this is what's going on. Things are good right now. I'm talking to you from a place of happiness, and that's another thing. For years, I would never admit that I was happy because every time I admitted to the universe that I was happy, things would fall apart. But I don't believe in that anymore because I've decided that that's not the way it works. Hopefully that belief sustains me and allows everything to be true. So, yeah, that's it. That's all I got to say about that. So I hope everybody out there is doing well. How are you guys? That's what I want to know. Do you have any issues? Do you have any specific topic you'd like me to tackle on the show? Remember, you can email me anytime, soulforgepodcast@gmail.com. Tweet me at soulforgepod. Write something on the Facebook page, facebook.com/soulforgepodcast. I've been posting a lot of photos on there of different motivational sayings and cool little things. I'd like you to check it out. Join the Facebook page. There's not very many people on there yet, but I'd like to really get a nice community started. Definitely encourage that. Go to the Twitter, do all that kind of stuff. And if you have something that you want to ask me and you don't want me to read it on the air, just say that in the email and I'll definitely keep it confidential. So I've got some exciting stuff coming up soon. Can't really talk about it yet, but I did receive an email from a listener, and in a few weeks probably we're going to have some exciting episodes coming out. So we will talk to you soon. Thanks for stopping by the Forge. Hope everybody's doing wonderful. And remember, the secret of getting ahead is getting started. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Soul Forge. I hope you found some value in it. To contact the show, please email soulforgepodcast@gmail.com or find us on Twitter at soulforgepod. We are Soul Forge Podcast on Facebook, and you can find me personally on Twitter and Instagram at Darth Vaderloo. Please spread the Soul Forge word by rating and reviewing us in iTunes and by telling everyone you know. Thanks for stopping by the Forge.